a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
No, Lane, you add to the giving. See, audience, this is why I love guys like this. They're just not financial guys helping you make money. He's serving you. That's what I love about you, Lane. You're an educator. Educator to helping people. What they do with it, as I say, the outcome's on them, not on me and you. We could just educate, and where it goes from there, it's up to them. And it's powerful. It's the way it should be. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and again, everybody loves money. I love money, and we're going to talk about money, but how it can really serve you. And he's going to be anti in some things, something you can do on your own to really build wealth. And I'm going to say the right way, and more importantly, the right way for the future. Everybody wants that lottery win, and I just made $10 million. But we know in 2 to 3 years that money's gone, and most of the time, people, when they get wealth like that, they don't know what to do with it. So we're going to talk a lot about that and his great story and his background. Before we start, here's the gratitude for today. Just in case you haven't heard this in a while, I thought I'd let you know that you are amazing. And amazing is a great word for my guest because his background's amazing. And what he's done at a very young age, he looks 22. I think I won't even ask his age, but it doesn't matter. Let's bring our guest on. Lane, hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. Aloha, everybody.
Biggest impact you've made up to date?
Well, we do these annual retreats for our investors, and before coming, a lot of people have never met other people with over $1 million, $2 million net worth who have the same viewpoints on wealth, values, and most of the people that they interact with up to that point are just high income earners and just spend most of the money they make, and they certainly don't invest it in alternative investments. So that was kind of the event or the feeling I wanted to create because, a long time ago, I was a lost guy investing in a lot of rental properties until I met, an informal community of accredited investors. And I realized very quietly that, the wealthy do things very differently. And I think we're going to be digging that today.
I love that you said that. I'm learning that through my journey as being with billionaires and learning what they're doing. And it's crazy because anybody can do it. You got to run into the right people and you've got to take action and a bunch of things like that. I love that you have a community. When is your next retreat so people can have access to it? They can reach out to you.
We normally do it in January when the weather's rough out there in the U.S. mainland, out here in Honolulu, Hawaii. That's where I live. And we kind of run a close-knit community. Everybody I interact with and talk to and sort of vet before they come in person, that's for sure. I think we'll end with how they can kind of reach out and see if they're a good fit.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we'll get some contact information and talk about service heart with people with a lot of money. You mentioned this is what this retreat/community is about. How can people listening get to that next level the right way? Because you said some things before the show, which we won't mention, but there's a lot of people telling us the wrong thing to do. Yeah.
I mean, like I said just a little while ago, like everything that I kind of talk about in my book, and I talk about, I'm not a financial planner. I'm not licensed to sell you a bunch of garbage. And, everything I've learned through my own experience, right? So, starting out, I was an engineer and just sort of working for the man and taught to go to school, study hard, invest in the 401k, and buy a house to live in. Oh yeah, that too, right? So that's what I did. I bought a house to live in, and then because I was traveling all over for work as a construction supervisor, never home. I think I was in my early 20s at the time. This is 2009. And I just started to rent it out. And that was where I got the taste of cash flow, investing directly in real estate and alternative assets. And it started the whole head scratcher. And like, why am I investing in this 401k stuff? And yeah, that was almost like, what, 20 years ago. By 2015, I had 11 rental properties, still working my day job. And then, after that, started to invest passively in syndications and private placements, was a general partner of most of these. And, yeah, several thousand units. But yeah, I try and help people get started, wherever they're at. I think that's the hardest part.
In your 20s, 11 rental properties, that's a heck of a side gig. Very, very cool side gig.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that, it sounds impressive, right? But, the way I did it, my highest and best use was being an engineer, right? So like the people I work with, they make over 100 grand a year, certainly. And they, their highest and best use is being a doctor, being a dentist, or an engineer, or running their own business, certainly, right? I mean, you should have a high hourly rate there. But very quietly on the side, what I was doing, every time I saved up a few, was it 30 grand or so, buy a little rental property, put in the portfolio. By 2015, had 11 of these, and it produced maybe a few $1,000s of passive income a month, right? When you also include the capex, the bad trash out, the move outs and stuff like that, and taxes, insurance, a few $100 per property times 11, 3,000. And I had always had professional property management, right? I mean, that's kind of the way we teach it, right? That's well worth paying them 10% a month and half of the month's full month's rent, right? To lease it up. But, that's kind of the philosophy. Like, we're not house flippers here. We're not wholesalers. That's what you do when you don't have too much money. But yeah, in my book, The Wealth Elevator, we kind of talk about these different phases of the wealth building journey and kind of strategies and some tax strategies for each of them. As it's not just one, recipe to get to the, to where you want to be. It depends on where you're at, right? So when I first started, buying little rental properties was the right thing to do. But, as I mentioned, I wanted to create that experience that I got in 2016, which was my aha moment, right? I had 11 rental properties, but, every year I had maybe an eviction or two, and at least one of them like turned into like a $10,000-$20,000 repair bill. Or you start to lose faith in humanity. But hey, that's just how, these folks are, right? I mean, people are always, you have some gratitude here that, a lot of people, most people out there in the country are living paycheck to paycheck. And yeah, they shouldn't trash the property on the way out, but it is what it is, right? But as a landlord, you get tired of that stuff. And I started to interact with other people who had $1 million net worth or greater, and who also owned a lot of rental properties and also went through these types of ups and downs too. And what I realized, and from their example mostly, is that they were trading in and selling their little rental properties and scaling up to larger deals, commercial assets, apartments, as mostly a passive LP partner, right? So now they didn't have to get the debt in their name. They didn't have to deal with the management headaches. They didn't have to manage the manager anymore, right? They're just a passive LP partner in this large syndication deal. And this is kind of where I found the difference between the first floor of the Wealth Elevator curriculum and the second floor of the Wealth Elevator curriculum. We'll talk to people how they can get a book later. But
yeah,
this is, this is kind of where I kind of lead people down the threshold and, at least, again, telling my own stories and my own experiences of going through this. Obviously I've expanded beyond that, of course, too. We have the third floor curriculum too, but this is, nobody ever taught me this, right? Like, I didn't have any rich uncles. I didn't even know what a credit investor was. So this is kind of, it's hard for the first generation multimillionaire, or what we call them. We call them wealth immigrants, right? Because you're typically the first generation who's bestowed, 7-figure net worth.
Well, I'm looking in the mirror when you're talking. I used to be a landlord, and I had the same problems for 7 years. And I love what you're doing, and taking that management away, because that's what I look for. And I wasn't making a lot of money. It was inheritance, but I agree with you. Being a landlord, you got to have a certain skin, and most people don't. But they still want to make this wealth. Talk about how people can first talk about LP, because when you say LP, what does that mean so people understand?
Yeah. So the stage after investing in a bunch of rental properties, getting to a million net worth, or if you can look up the definition of credit investor. For a lot of people who make over $200,000 a year, you kind of just step up to the bigger stuff right away. But there's these larger deals that maybe you're buying a 50 unit apartment complex or a 400 unit apartment complex or a self storage unit, right? The key word here is syndication, right? And a lot of this is within the confines of securities and regulation laws. I know we pay our lawyers a lot of money every time we do one of these types of things, but the way to think about it is like the analogy I use is like an airplane. So in an airplane, you have the cockpit. This is where you have your general partners, your operators, your syndicators, the people who run the deal, right? They find the deal, they operate it, they get the property management, they line up the lending, they send out distributions, they do the reporting, they do everything, right? And also in this airplane, you have people who come and coach and they, pay the money and get in and sleep. Those are the passive investors, the limited partners, right? And the nice thing about them is they don't have to do anything. They just sit there and sleep. And from a legal liability standpoint, they're not the managing member. So, I mean, I'm the general partner in a lot of these. When somebody unfortunately drowns in the pool, right, which tends to happen when you have so many units and especially so many swimming pools, there's always litigation involved with that. The LP, the passive investor, never gets really involved in it. Think of it no different than like, if you invest in AT&T stock, right, which everyone probably here is if they invest in S&P 500 or any type of index fund. I'm sure AT&T gets sued every day. you're never a part of any of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate that analogy, because that's perfect. And it sounds like it's community, and that's probably the wrong word. But you're spreading risk out to them, but they're using your money to grow this entity, this asset.
Yeah, it's a partnership at the end of the day, right? There's a private placement memorandum, almost sounds like 100-page document. And yeah, there's a trade-off, right? I mean, if you want to take on all the liability, and if the price of the property goes underneath the senior debt or what the loan is, and you want to be liable for it, cool. Go buy your own rental property or home on your own. That's the nice thing about the LP, right? You're not really tied to the debt there. And that's on the bad side. So you've kind of got like a stop loss there. On the bad side, when the deal gets knocked out of the park, the general partner gets paid their carried interest, but that's what incentivizes them to work the horses hard there. But at the end of the day, you need to look at what the total returns are. And when I was investing in alternative investments, just in little rental properties, I mean, I think there's just a stark difference in terms of returns. And then also the tax benefits, right? Investing in these large assets, you're able to do a cost segregation and extract out a whole bunch of passive activity losses. And if you're not versed at this, welcome to everybody who comes into this world. It's like a different language. A lot of CPAs don't understand this stuff. That's why they're still counting beans and doing tax returns as a living. And this is where I realized in 2016, interacting, having beers with these guys, and being in community with people like this, that wow, a lot of wealthy people are quietly doing this. A lot of second, third generation wealthy people, this is just second nature to them, and they've expanded it and become full-time investors at this point. And that's kind of my goal, is to help people bridge that gap, right? Like if you don't have money and you're just a high-paid W-2 worker, or just as they say, you run your own business, but you're just trading time for money in your own job that you own, that's what you got to do that, right? That's the capital accumulation stage. You have to get to a certain point. In our world, in the FIRE movement, people call this different things, hitting FIRE. I call it a critical mass. Once you're able to hit maybe $3 to $4 or $5 million net worth, you probably have enough where you could probably just put it into different types of investments, and you don't have to work another day. But you certainly have to be a good capital allocator, which is what we help and train people, and we have on our website curriculum for people to get more versed on that. A lot of that is getting around other high net worth or credit investors. We always tell people you need to have at least 5 people that you know actually doing this stuff that you can probably call as a friend or a colleague to help you, get through this. And if not anything, get deal flow, because none of this is on a website. I know you wanted to talk about, so like 401ks, Wall Street, right? That's what we call the secondary market, right? So they give people who want to invest, you can go through those channels, and it's secondary market means sloppy seconds, right? They're pumping up the fees, etc., and they're pushing that hose to the general public, right? What we try to do is we try to go primary to the source. We either run the deal ourselves or we know the people running the deal directly. So they eliminate all these side middlemen. Yeah. And at this point, it's much, better returns for investors. But, the downside of this is you got to know who you're working with, right? So this is why community and understanding and who the trustworthy people are out there. And then, of course, you have to do your own due diligence and vetting. So you have to know what makes a good deal. Of course, we've got a lot of education on this. But, there's 2 channels out there, right? And what I didn't realize is, the wealthy, they will go through primary to the source, right? Like another great example, I was actually involved in the pre-IPO space for SpaceX. I got into the XAI part, right? There's pre-IPO. So I think everybody kind of knows, like when a stock goes IPO, that's when the first time the average Joe can get access to it. And that's when, I think everybody kind of knows that the pre-IPO, the insiders that kind of pumps it up, and then the retail, throws gasoline on it, right? So, not saying that SpaceX is a good investment, even though I'm in it, right? Not financial advice, but I'm just showing, like, there is ability for very wealthy people to get access into the pre-IPOs of these companies. No different than investing in this 400-unit apartment complex down the road from you. But unfortunately, what a lot of people will do is they'll get access to that 400-unit apartment complex or others like it through a REIT, or REIT, which is a mass-produced institutionalized product with a lot of fees, carried interest, where you, the investor, don't really get too much. You certainly don't get a lot of tax benefits, too. Yeah. But I'll stop there.
No, that's fantastic. So I'm going to do something, Lane, for you, an audience. I'm going to ask you here in a minute what do you do to qualify. But the first 10 people, when you reach out to Lane and ask about his program, I'm going to send you the Wealth Elevator book for free, so you can have access to these secrets that he's talking about. And even if you're not qualified yet, what a goal. What a guide to get to that level. Get the book, and now you can work and work on that. So make sure you reach out to Lane. We'll get his contact information. So people listening are going, I'm excited too. Who qualifies? Who would be somebody you would want to work with?
Yeah, when I first started, doing podcasting back in 2016, I would kind of help out everybody that, at least had a good, decent paying job, right? Like, and this is why I wrote the book, right? Like, there's a lot of books out there written for guys in credit card debt and don't make too much income. I would probably say, yeah, if you're in credit card debt or you make less than 50, 60 grand a year, please do not listen to a thing I am saying, right? There are a lot of good personal finance blogs out there, Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, right? A lot of those guys have great content and information for that particular avatar. But if you're like me, you get paid at least 100 grand a year, you're a good saver, you're able to save 5 to 10 grand a year. I think that's what it is at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. I tell my high income earners, I don't care what you guys make, 500 grand a year, $1 million a year. It's what you net at the end of the day. So if you're able to net at least 5 to 10 grand, right, maybe you can use that to buy little rental properties, right? And we give away a lot of this content for free because it's the stuff we used to teach. But, to get involved in these other more country club type of deals, right, you've typically got to be an accredited investor.
Yeah, and that's something you'll walk people through and educate them how to do that. Because I love people that take action, and you go, Lane, hey, do this, this, and this, and then we can talk about this. Because I know of a lot of audience members that would love to do that and take those steps. That's powerful. Okay, yeah. So it's not a lot of money, but what I'm hearing from you, it's an incredible savings tool as well. What you do.
Well, I mean, we think of it more of on the offensive end, right? Like we're not
Okay.
here to just. I think that's what my big beef with the fire movement is a bunch of guys work some jobs, high paid jobs, save it, put in index funds, and then maybe get 1.5 million, 2 million, and they shrivel up and die and live off of nothing. Like I don't think that aligns with your message, right, or your community, which is money flows to you, be abundance, give it away, that type of stuff, right? I get where that comes from. Typically, people who do that are in their 30s and 40s, and they typically don't have kids, right? Who have that mindset. I think more with my community, or at least the way I lead it, is like, look, we want to build this for the next generations to come. And we don't want it just to be, hey, living shirt sleeves, as they say, or what's the statistic? Like 90% of people with multiple millions lose their money by the third generation, right? We want to build the money habits and also have them be groomed in a community of other people where they can find deal flow. They can hunt for their own meat. And they can find these deals where they can allocate the money that they have into these different opportunities on their own. So, I'm not saying they need to go on a hockey stick in terms of net worth, but at least keep going, at least outpace their spending habits for perpetuity. So I think that's kind of the more goal and attitude.
And I like the spending habits. That is very cool because I've not heard that a lot with a lot of financial people I talk to because those are so important. Because I could have $1 million and say I got 100,000, and then I spend I have no money left. I've got the money in you, and now I'm kind of screwed because I can't pay my bills, can't pay expense. That's not what you're talking about. Let's end with what's a piece of advice. And now we've gone this far. People are seeing you an expert. It's something unique and different. It's not out there in the world. You can't just jump on ChatGPT or internet and go, hey, find out what Lane's talking about. But what steps can people take to get closer to what you're doing?
First step is understanding where you're at, right? I mean, I kind of modeled my book after the idea of Malcolm Gladwell outliers, right? There's different rungs to people, right? Somebody who's, making 150 grand a year, a net worth of $250,000 is going to do something totally different than somebody who has a net worth of 2 mil or 5 mil who's selling their business. So it's important to understand which rung you're at. Or in my book, we have different floors of the wealth elevator, cleverly designed like that. So I would say, pick up the book and understand where they are at, right? It's a self-awareness test first. Because, there's a lot of financial tips and advice out there. And nothing I give is financial advice because I don't know your guys' financial situation. I don't know you personally, right? So, if you're an accredited investor, we certainly can jump on a quick call, right? And I get to get to know you a little bit better. But, speaking to the masses out there, read the book, figure out what floor of the wealth elevator you are first, and then proceed from there.
Great playbook. Simple, easy. I'm sure the book breaks it down super simply. Oh, okay, I'm here.
Yeah,
Okay, this is what I need to do.
I'm an engineer, so there's a table in there if you're bored, if you're lazy, and you don't want to figure out, right? But yeah, like I know you were gonna do a shout out to your email list, right, for some free books on your side. But yeah, if you guys I don't want to take that thunder and lightning away from you, but yeah, if you guys buy the book and leave a nice review, maybe just email us with a screenshot and we'll hook them up with the PDF version and the MP3 version. So I know those smart folks out there will drag and drop that into their chat GPTs, ask it questions, and then you got it, right? You got the curriculum.
No, Lane, add to the giving. See, audience, this is why I love guys like this. They're just not financial guys helping you make money. He's serving you. So take advantage of that. He's going to send you the PDF and the audio. And if you're an audio listener like I am or a PDF, you can have access to it and learn more. That's what I love about you, Lane. You're an educator. Educator to helping people. What they do with it, as I say, the outcome's on them, not on me and you. We could just educate, and where it goes from there, it's up to them. And it's powerful. It's the way it should be. Let's end with a fun question to get to know Lane a little bit better. So I'll come out to Honolulu. I want you to pick your favorite restaurant. I want you to do two things. I want you to invite 3 people who've been most impactful in your life, whether dead or alive. And 2, I'm a foodie, so I like my guests to order the food because I always like to try new foods. So what's your favorite foods you'd order?
We probably do seafood or a sushi. I certainly would not recommend, what do they call it, like Dukes or all the stuff that's five sushi. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Those are just tourist traps out there in Waikiki. And then as far as the people, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have any personal development or like, I read all the financial authors and all the business authors. I'm not really want to spend time with them, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's. Hey, I mean, every answer is a great answer, and that's great. It'd just be me and you enjoying
Yeah.
a place that's out, a family owned restaurant that's not Dukes and all those, like you said, franchises or
Yeah, I wouldn't
tourist
want to
traps.
hang out with like a politician because they just lie and just be a waste of my time. But if I got the, I got to have them do some truth serum, that'd be kind of interesting. I'm always kind of interested in like right now, like we invest in oil and gas, right? Like what really happened? Why'd
Yeah.
you guys go into Venezuela, right? Like what's the real deal with Iran? Like why are you guys doing that? Like what's the financial implications, the geopolitics surrounding that, right? Other than what's put out there by the media.
I would love the answer to that too. That would be so. Any politician out there, we're going to bring you. We're going to ask you some direct questions because I want to know those answers as well. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Lane, thanks for taking the time. I know you're busy. I appreciate all you're doing with your clients and people helping them grow their wealth because it's very important. You don't have wealth, you're going to be struggling. And there's a lot of stress in the world right now. Wealth, being in poverty or less in wealth is a stress. And we want to take that away by serving more people. How can people reach out to you and connect with you?
Yeah, they can check out my podcast, The Wealth Elevator. And if you're an accredited investor, shoot me email Lane at thewealthelevator.com.
Great, and we'll subscribe to his podcast, subscribe to mine, whatever. Because this podcast, if you're listening and thinking, "Hey, my friend, my cousin, my family, whoever it is struggling with money," let them listen to Lane for 15 minutes. I guarantee I've got a whole thing of notes here. I'm going to ask after the show. You're impacting them, and that's what a servant heart does, like Lane's doing, impacting others to help them grow and have that legacy that's much better. And you said something earlier about the 8 to 5 that's just, I'm going to paraphrase, struggling along to just try to make it. That's not what this is about. This is about really making a change in your life, and you can change others. So with that being said, me and Lane want to thank everyone for watching or listening to this podcast, and we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart.